Welcome to our RDC 10 press conference today. We'd like to welcome the members of the media and our viewers. Let me introduce my panel from the right. To my right, there is none other than the regional chairman of region number 10, Mr. Darren Adams. And to his right is none other than Mr. Sharma Solomon, former regional chairman of region number 10 and current local government election candidate for Linden area. Good day once again. Today, a statement will be read by the regional chairman, followed by Mr. Sharma Solomon.
Stop the bullying behavior and taking advantage of the unemployed people in Linden. The PNCR categorically rejects and condemns the attempts by the PPP to use taxpayers' funds to hold our people hostage to participate in political activities on their behalf. The clearly bullying and intimidating calls by the PPP activists in Linden to residents who are employed by the government in the already discriminatory part-time employment scheme, requiring them to participate in the recently held nomination day activities on the PPP's behalf are something that must be condemned by all. There is absolutely no connection between being employed to alleviate unemployment using funds from our national coffers and those employees being required to participate in partisan political activities like the one held on nomination day. There is also absolutely no reason that these employees should be directed to report to the PPP building at industrial area for anything, as they are, as a group, being paid with public funds. The PPP should be ashamed that it is unable to muster enough support from its few members in Linden, forcing it to resort to this underhand and illegal measure of threatening these vulnerable part-time employees to force them to put on a show for their party. These persons should be at their place of employment, performing the tasks for which they have been engaged, rather than being called to prop up the PPP photo op of its so-called support in Linden for the recently held nomination day operation. We urge these employees to exercise their right to decline participation in this farce, report to your job site, or sit it out at home. You are allowed sick days by law. For those of you who feel so threatened that you have to go on with this intimidation, we understand your need to do so, but urge you to remember the attitude of these bullies when you face the ballot box in privacy as we work towards ridding Linden and Guyana of the dictators who are showing their hand with these actions before we are forced to eat, sleep, and live as they would want to direct. The price of apathy towards public affairs is to be ruled by evil. I thank you.
All right, the other part of the statement will be read by Mr. Sharma Solomon.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. I would like to take this time to recognize the statement presented by the regional chairman, Mr. Darren Adams, and to express on the first part of the sentiments conveyed by Mr. Adams that our position is quite clear. With reference to what occurred on Monday, nominations day for the local government elections, we fundamentally and firmly believe in the rights of citizens to be able to have their freedom to exercise political assembly, political association, and the right to exercise freedom of choice. We respect those rights. In Linden and Region 10, we have always fought to provide the space by which residents can enjoy those rights. So for those who willingly supported the People's Progressive Party on Monday, we support your right to have political association. As the People's National Congress have always ensured, and we expect that, unlike what we saw in Letem, our rights for political assembly and association must also be respected. But what we condemn those unwilling souls that were forced to participate in a farce, where they were forced to wear colors of their undesirable liking, where they were told they must stand in the rain, where they were told that they must participate or they will lose pay. Those are the people we are concerned about. For those who made that willing choice to support the People's Progressive Party, we say to you, even your right we will defend. But we condemn those who you forced to march to support the Nations Day program. That we will take full advantage to demonstrate our people that never again must those sorts of treatment be allowed. But we want to assure our residents, we want to assure you, Guyana, that notwithstanding those challenges, notwithstanding what the People's Progressive Party would have restricted our people to become, our campaign is on the move. Our programs are set, and we have made them available so that we have already started our meetings and engagement with you, the residents, and we will continue to do so. Our job is simple. It is to ensure that we continue to promote our democracy that ensures consultation, involvement, and participation in your right to choose. We will come before you, as we have over the weeks, and we will continue to come before you in the weeks to come. Our campaign is solid. Our commitment to you and our resolve remain solid. But we say to you, notwithstanding these challenges that we face, it is the first time we are going to witness the display of oil money mixed with politics. And it is the first time we will see this on full display at these very first local government elections. It is important, Guyana, it is important, Linden, for us to appreciate that notwithstanding this challenge, we have always said that the most important resource that we can have is you, our human resource. And we look towards you to recognize what is on play by the People's Progressive Party. It is one that we must never allow them to escape the grasp of accountability. But we say to you this morning, that we are prepared, as we have demonstrated in the past, to confront the People's Progressive Party for any action that deemed undesirable, and more so that is unconstitutional and violate the rights of our citizens. We will stand in defiance. So we ask, as we close, that you join this resistance. The resistance because we know you're out there and you see our cause. You understand what the People's Progressive Party is doing to our people in Linden, and you will resist. We know that the evidence of blackmail, we know the evidence of intimidation, we know the evidence of straight bullyism is on your doorsteps. But we recognize in each and every one of you the fight to ensure that we make our society a better place. And we ask for you to join in this resistance. I thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I will open the floor for questions on the statement. Mr. Adam Harris.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Darren. No, what you talked about was something that was witnessed even in Georgetown and other parts of the country. My question has to do with if the people are forced to wear a jersey or lose pay, what is there to stop the authorities from ensuring that these people vote? And just a little bit, people are being asked to go into ballot boxes or ballot places, with phones to record their vote. What can you do to ensure that once that doesn't happen, so that the people's vote remains secret and sacred?
The first point that you raised, Mr. Harris, looks towards our education and campaigning and ensuring that residents understand what sort of right, responsibility, and in essence, what is expected, as you mentioned earlier, secret ballot. And that remains the principal element within the ballot booth, that persons are given that respect to exercise their franchise without having anyone to look over their shoulders. So I know earlier, in fact, yesterday, the leader of the opposition had given a commitment to see where legality allows for people to either come into the polling place with their cell phones or not. I know, as far as I can recall, that is not allowed. However, that is what we've already started to say to our scrutineers and what we've already started to advocate to persons who are going to be voting so that they too can pay attention. So in the interim, the first thing is to educate and to inform people of what is allowed and what is not. And then we will take that to the state of ensuring that those who decide that they would like to go in that direction, that at the polling place, we will have the necessary mechanisms in place to address those concerns.
Thank you. Mr. Antonio Day.
All right, good morning, members of the press. Antonio Day from HB90 News. I have a question directed to Mr. Adams. I know that the Linden some recap activities are supposed to commence today, but I was made to understand that the government did not contribute the finance towards hosting of these activities, knowing very well that this is part of tourism. And I would infer that the mayor would have said that this is a way of if they can think of one can hope this one can if they try for finances. So all the tourism then is continuing to be left out of the pool. So I wanted to know if it's possible you can speak on the subject.
Well, let me just say this. And you're aware, you've seen it in our press statements. We held a town hall meeting recently with the mayor and town council, and we would have indicated to you that the government continues to discriminate against the people of Region 10, more so in the allocation of resources. We've seen it extended from contracts. Over 70% of the contracts go to people outside of Linden. We've seen how they have emasculated the situation, forcing our people to earn for themselves. We have seen access to loans from the Linden Enterprise Network, an organization that the coalition pumped 150 million into to the benefit of small business, being strangled. They've shut that organization down. And so this is no different. Yes, there are we're seeing the announcement of other regions being given support in the area of tourism. But I saw a statement by the mayor where, of course, she reached out to several of the ministries, and they have not responded. Nevertheless, we are a resilient people, we are a talented people, and we will continue to do our work and seek out support and partnership. Yesterday, we had I engaged at a function with the U.S. Embassy, where 25 young women will receive funding in small businesses. In the area where this government denies us, we will not just sit back idly and complain. We will expose it, we will agitate it, yes, but we will find innovative ways to seek partnership. And that is why the Office of the Regional Chairman would have launched the Regional Economic Advancement Partnership, which seeks to bring together stakeholders and people from the diaspora to fill that gap where the government, because it has access and control of the resources. And so we will reach out to all of the private sector groups that are willing to support, and the events, I'm sure, will be executed. In addition.
Just to add a point quickly on the mayor's position of not having support from the government through the requests that were made as early as November and October last year. I saw a statement from the minister disputing that. But what the minister failed to do is to answer the mayor's question of why no requests that were made were answered. What the minister is saying the policy of the government is to channel resources outside of the statutory agencies such as the municipality and RDCs and go directly to groups and then make that announcement publicly that in the name of the people of Linden and Region 10, that they have allocated X amount of dollars, which does not have the sort of accountability not coming through those statutory agencies. So that is exactly what the government will then respond to say, that they have been dealing with issues of tourism and issues of requests in Linden, but not dealing with the people who are making those requests, such as the RDC and the municipality.
Go ahead.
Adam Harris again, please. I'm going back to the opening statement. Are any of you, Darren or Sharon, in a position to say about how many people have gained part-time employment in Region 10, and in which areas are these people working?
So the numbers that came to us, let me just first say, rather than the government using the regional government system to allow the information to flow from central to the regional system and allow a system where maybe counselors, these part-time workers engage counselors, so you ensure that there is balance across the constituencies in the region. What they did is they allowed a political appointee, the applications that were completed by many of the persons had to go to a political appointee. And that is why there is so much fear, because the recording that you would have heard circulating was that of the Prime Minister rep mandating, making it mandatory that all of the part-time workers, close to, I think it was 300, well, of course, some of them rejected and said that they would not go. And what he did, they are fully well aware that these contracts come to an end in May or June. And so many of the people were threatened that if they do not come out and support the nomination they exercise, that their contracts would not be renewed. In essence, what the PPP is doing is that they're using the very people, your own tax money, and they are using that to enslave, if I can use such a term, enslave the very people who are under their direct employ. And so it's an unfortunate situation. It has to be called out. One just has to look at the few events that the PPP held in Region 10 over the past 6 months. So they held a barbecue, I think around October, November. And if you check the photos, only the paraphernalia and the sound system and the trampoline and other things is what you would have seen in the compound. Not a Lindener was present in the compound. I give you another example. On MASH Day, they sent this information out on the state media, informing people that there was a matrimony that was planned at Christiansburg, when the RDC would have held discussion and organized their event at Bayrock. And if you look at the photos, the evidence that was there, you would see that no one was at Christiansburg. It tells you of the level of support that they have in the region. And so the only other avenue they could have taken is one where they had direct control that would have impacted negatively people's ability to earn and to take care of their families. And so they attempted to target their income by saying directly, if you do not turn up, if you do not chant loud, if you do not chant what we are chanting, then you will not, your contract will not be renewed at the end of May. Sharma wants to.
Oh, go ahead.
Just to follow up again on what Deran, the chairman of the region, mentioned, it's important to note the amount of persons who are on part-time pay at any given time doesn't only reflect the 10 days workers, as you have persons in the SIP program, you have those small contractors, and you have others who have been given employment through different CDC programs, community development programs. Now, all of these persons, so if you're looking for a number, that number could easily be inflated based on reaching into any one of these areas and extracting people to participate in your facade of numbers. And I think it's important to know numbers and the significance of the people who participated in that exercise. There was absolutely no surprise. And I think in the media itself, it's a recognition of that, because if you had any surprise of crossover of any significant person of interest in the region that the PPP could have latched onto to say, here is the evidence of people moving in our direction, they would have done so. The people of Linden have absolutely no surprise with themselves of those who were present in the red t-shirts. Likewise, we understand those who were unwilling to participate and had to don the red t-shirt. So that number could easily be inflated and exaggerated at any time because of all those part-time sort of employment that is available in the region, compliments of the People's Progressive Party.
Thank you. Any other questions?
When you talk about numbers being inflated, I suppose you would have seen the list put up by the PPP. Excuse the background noise, please. You would have seen the list put up by the PPP for the elections, the municipal elections. On that list, are there names that would have surprised you? Have any of these people been there before? Have any of those who were there before been left off?
At this moment, we are currently analyzing the list, all the lists that were posted, to ensure that we have a sanitized situation beyond what you just mentioned, which include, as we have observed as early as last evening, where one person would have signed for several persons. So there are many issues that we are still uncovering at the moment, not only in Linden, but I'm told across Guyana, with relation to the inflating of or the misrepresentation of persons who would have given their signature or their commitment to be candidates. Now, I know in Linden we have a situation that I heard the VP mention yesterday, and actually mentioned the young lady by name. But I can say to you that is an outright lie. That young lady made every commitment to be part of our campaign, and we have the evidence of that, and we are certain that we will be vindicated on that. So we are okay with our people, our representatives, but we cannot say the same for the People's Progressive Party in a very assertive way, because of so much that we are uncovering in terms of misrepresentation of the persons that they've identified as candidates and some of the people who have given supporting signatures for their candidates. And those things are being looked at the moment.
In addition to that, let me just say that reports have been coming to us from the Kokwani area, where there were persons who went to the homes of people claiming that they were representing the APNU. And of course, some people, recognizing that they are supporters of the APNU, signed onto the list of persons. There are other persons that Linden who are reaching out to say that persons visited their homes and indicated to them that there were scholarship programs that they were recruiting and collecting signatures for. And so many of them, some people signed. And so I want to encourage people who may have been victim or believe that they were victim of such malpractice to peruse the list to see if your signature is there and report it, inform us so that you can complete the form, because that is a clear indication of fraud.
All right, I will take maybe one more question.
You got nobody else? All right, I can take another shot. And I want to talk about the red jerseys. Have you seen a pile of red jerseys on the streets? There was a photograph in Georgetown where these red jerseys were dumped in canals and nearby. Has there been a similar occurrence in Linden?
Right opposite GCOM, they said in nomination day, jerseys were tossed to the ground. What happened in Linden on Monday? The PPP also launched their campaign on the said day. So there were two sorts of encouragement for persons to participate in exercise in the same extortionist manner. For those who would have used their own labor to work, were told that they have to don red t-shirts for the nomination day. And we heard the same voice over another voice note, indicating to people that they must turn up at 3 o'clock for the launching at the party office. At that meeting, persons were paid as much as $20,000. This is also recorded from the co-campaign manager who was on stage making that assertion. And you can check for the numerous Facebook accounts that was spoken. So the red jersey was to be in play for the entire 24 hours because of the two events that were held. But at every event, we saw red t-shirts on the ground.
All right, so to the members of the media, we know that we were stated on our set here that it is a Region 10 press conference, but we do have one of our MPs, Shadow Minister of Ministry of Housing and Water, Ms. Annick Ferguson, who will be reading a statement in regards to another issue that has arisen. So I will ask her to go ahead with her statement at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, for this morning's proceeding. Allow me to bid yourself and esteemed colleagues and also members of the media a pleasant morning. My statement is actually on the single window system legislation, Bill number 26 of 2022. which is of concern to the APNU AFC parliamentary opposition. And I'll now proceed to read the statement. The APNU AFC parliamentary opposition have written to the Honorable Colin Crowell, MP, Minister of Housing and Water, and copied their correspondence to the Honorable Gail Shearer, MP, Minister of Governance, and the Honorable Mansour Nadir, Speaker of the National Assembly, highlighting concerns regarding the single window system bill, which will be debated in the National Assembly on Monday, April 24th, 2023. Ghanaians will recall that in 2019, the Customs and Trade Single Window System Act was passed and assented to by former President Granger, highlighting the previous coalition government's commitment to enhancing the ease of doing business regarding matters of trade. This was done after a robust period of public consultations in 2017 and 2018. While the proposed current legislation is new and its intention is to provide efficient and effective services across the NDCs and municipalities, which we support in principle, the opposition has noted with concern that the government, through the Ministry of Housing and Water, has embarked on several consultations on the implementation of this new system, which is likely to come into effect on July 1st, 2023. This means that any positive recommendations emerging from this process will not be incorporated in the proposed new legislation, defeating the purpose of consultation. Over the last few days, we have been approached by several members of the business community, representatives of local government organs, and our constituency members seeking clarification on this new system. Regrettably, the opposition has not been afforded the opportunity by way of invitation to attend these consultations, and to this end have requested an urgent meeting with the consultant to clarify areas of concern if we are to support the bill. In December 2022, the Ministry of Housing entered into a contract for the sum of $202 million with Global Services, which is said to be a Guyanese-led consortium, although the project was never tendered publicly, rather it was sole sourced. The elements contained in the bill that are of concerns to the opposition are as follows. Part 5, this deals primarily with the administrative and oversight. Here, the minister has power to appoint personnel. Secondly, Part 6 speaks to the issue of general and miscellaneous provisions. And this is basically addressing the establishment of the Planning Appeals Tribunal. And thirdly, we also have concerns regarding the third schedule, which addresses repeals. The parliamentary opposition will participate in the debates on Monday. We will register concerns and will propose and recommend to the National Assembly that the bill be sent to a special select committee for further elucidation and consultations for a period of 1 month. We wish to put on record that it is not our intention to stymie or delay the passage of this critical legislation, but prefer to have a bill that is satisfactory to all users and recognizes all positive contributions. Additionally, we are confident that once the bill is forwarded to a special select committee for 1 month interrogation, it can then be returned to the National Assembly. We, in the opposition are not anti-development and do not seek to delay the passage of such a critical bill, but rather do not want a bill that is done in a rushed manner and seeks to hurt instead of better the lives of all. 1 month in select committee will bring forward a better bill that can ensure the full House support. We are willing to work in the interest of our people and country in a spirit of robust discussion and mutual consensus on matters and issues. We anticipate that the government will support the coalition on its recommendations, since it is our interest to have a strong single window system legislation. Here ends the reading of the statement. Thank you very much.
To our viewers who are viewing us online, let me just first say that, one second.
Ms. Haynes, just allow me to add. Hello?
One moment. Let me just say to our viewers that we have 2 minutes.
Can I be heard?
Joining us online, and you heard from me.
I think, David, she's probably making reference to you being online or something.
And you have
Not.
Mr. David Patterson, who is
But you can hear me.
Yes, we're hearing you. We have Mr. David Patterson, Member of Parliament, as well online. They're joining us via Zoom. And I do believe MP Patterson has something to say before we proceed to questions.
Yes, thank you very much and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. As Annette Ferguson has explained, the principle is something of which we do support. I mean, making speeding up our processes, alternative ways of submitting your billing applications. There are concerns, and as Anis mentioned, I just like to express some of them. I mean, in the bill as it is, the right to appeal to a judge will be removed. This will now be placed in an appeals tribunal. Right now, should anyone would like appeal the non-granting or non-approval of your building permit or any aspect of it, you can appeal to a High Court judge who will summon the parties before him. That is now being it's now being proposed to be repealed, and the tribunal is set up by the minister. We find that that is we don't support such a move. The powers of the minister, as Annette explained, are extensive in this bill, and by so granting the minister so much power, he erodes the authorities of several of the local NDCs and municipalities. Reduction of the powers of the NDCs and the local authorities. Obviously now several of our planning bills and permissions reside in local authorities headed by our elected representatives. That will be eroded and removed. We do think there's a question of the transfer of funds. Several of our NDCs and municipalities charge fees for the transfer of funds for building applications and those things like that. These funds will now be paid into the this new central authority that's been established, while the bill states that the intention is to transfer the monies back to these municipalities. As we can see, as we've seen with the case with Ipanaji, and I think as well the Ministry of Sports, the government has bypassed those authorities and used the money set aside for those agencies. So we would like to ensure that we would not be approving a process which would start funding to our NDCs and municipalities. The question of land allocation is now distribution of land will now be moved from land and surveys. Our local authorities and NDCs and be vested in this central authority, controlled, of course, by the minister, and we do see some jeopardies in that. And more fundamentally, we have an issue of why rush a bill now when the local government elections are on June the 12th, which is about 2 months from today, when new councillors and new councils will be appointed. Why foster the new councils with a legislation which diminishes their power? The PPP has been on record and been shouting that they consider themselves to be, they'll be very, very successful in the local government elections. So why, if they are so confident they're going to be so successful, why rush a bill that would take away the powers of the persons and of the people that they do think that they will have be selected? So, in summary, while we do support the mechanisms to make the system far easier and more transparent and efficient, there are some concerns for us. Several, instead of taking the powers away from these NDCs and municipalities, we can strengthen those authorities by training, IT work, and those things like that, rather than trying to reduce their powers in the future. It doesn't argue well democratic society, and we should be moving to decentralize more of these issues as opposed to what this bill will do if we the PPP passes it unamended as included here. Thank you.
Mr. Antonio, I see your hand.
Sorry, I didn't get, was there a question?
There is a hand up, but
Yeah, I have a question directed to Mr. David Patterson. Good morning. Antonio Day from HB News. You said that the passage of the single window project legislation, I know it's going to be Monday, but you said it's going to take away the powers of the persons at the NDC. Can you explain why? Because if it's to improve businesses and to ensure that issuance of permits will not be controversial or not corrupted, how does it take away the power from the persons at the NDC? I don't understand.
Well, Mr. Antonio, good morning and thanks for the question. In the third schedule, the bill repeals the following acts. Chapter 2001, the Tonga County Planning Act, Section 16, which specifically details the powers of municipalities, Section 20 and Section 21. The Section 16 says that, basically that you are to submit your application to the local authority, and then that local authority does several things. I mean, right now you submit to the NDCs and then other municipalities, they vet it, they they do their process, then they submit, then they move it on to other agencies. The bill, on the face of it, is seeking to say that you submit to us and we will do the movement of you. Do the movement for the applicant. But in repealing the entire Section 16, that removes the power, Section 16, Section 20 and 21, that removes the power for the NDCs to have an objection. Even though the NDCs are part of this, are anticipated to be part of this committee, their powers to object and overrule will be repealed under the Town Council, right? So the idea is we're not against a centralized system. We're not against a system which moves the paperwork forward. We're not against the submission electronically of building applications. We are paper-based. However, we are concerned about the vesting of the powers in the central authority, which is handpicked by the government. Local authorities, by virtue of the local government elections, has a certain amount of independence and autonomy, and these are one of the issues in which they have to meet. And I can use Linden for example. You know, if the persons in Linden are objectionable to a particular, say, business, and they would not even process the application. They would just inform on the very first instance that, sorry, our application doesn't meet our ordinances within our community. However, this power is no longer there. They can object, but as it's structured here, the local central authority can overrule the objections of the Linden Town Council. Previously, the objections would have to go before a judge, and both parties would have to make their case. So we do see some dangers in something like that, Mr. Day.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. I don't see the hand of anyone else. I don't know if any of the MPs has anything else they want to say before we close today's press conference.
Well, Ms. Haynes, I would also want to supplement with what David said with regards to Section 16 being appealed in the third schedule. Apart from that section of the Town and Country Planning Act, Chapter 2001, we also have sections 20 and 21, which the government is seeking to repeal. And if you look at what section 20 of this particular chapter speaks to, it actually, highlights the assignment and duties of the local authority. And section 21, submission of application exception to the central authority after the material date. So when these particular sections are appealed, it actually vests every activities into the hands of this central authority area, which this new bill will be addressing. Again, we don't have any difficulty with enhancing our legislation to make, as the statement states, to make business easy for our people. But between these movements, it seems as though the government intention is to have absolute control of the activities of these local authority areas, and also to dictate and to direct how things ought to be. It is quite unfortunate that we have to be at this juncture. And I trust that come Monday, when the debates are done and the opposition makes the necessary recommendation, the government will see it fit to have this bill, this legislation sent to a special select committee, because I can tell you, I have been in consultation with a few mayors, and specifically the mayor of Georgetown. Just recently, I had a conversation with him whether the policymakers there at the Georgetown municipality, whether they were a part of the consultation process. And he said no. He said they were not invited to the consultation exercises. It was only the administration of the council that was invited. So you see exactly, it is a deliberate ploy by this administration to keep out elected representatives, to keep out elected representatives, because their intention, as I said before, is to have absolute power, which is quite unfortunate. You cannot be speaking about democracy and still want to hamstring elected bodies from doing their work. So once again, we will have a robust debate come Monday, and we trust that the government will cede to our recommendations.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, MP. Thank you, MP Ferguson and MP Patterson. At this time, with no other questions from the members of the media, we'd like to thank our viewers and the press for joining our press conference today. And we do hope that you have a good afternoon. Oh, just before you go, I would like to inform our viewing public as well that today we will further discuss the issues outlined here today when we sit down on Facing the Nation at 12:30 to 1:30 on Channel 6 and our social media platforms with our chief scrutineer, Ms. Carol Smith-Joseph. Do have a wonderful afternoon.
Recording stopped.
They have to answer nothing. You see that?